It's about that time to grab your favorite snack and sit back and relax, because you are now listening to the Movie Time podcast with your hosts, low-key geek Renee Zalata and Blake the Wolf. Take it away, boys.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's time for another episode of Movie Time. Brand new week here. It's Indie Week. Blake, are you ready for this? What's going on?
Bro, I am wearing my shirt to reference the movie we're talking about today, which is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Wait, that's not the movie we're talking about today.
Wait, what year is it? Oh no!
Yeah,
Turn the plane back around.
Yeah.
We're talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
That's it. Reverse it. That's it.
Well, no, we're going back to the wrong year.
Oh my goodness! What have we done?
Is my de-aging technology working? I am technically a 78-year-old man. I think that we finally figured it out.
I think we're close. We're close. The dialogue and facial expressions don't necessarily match properly just yet. But I think we could fix that in post. We'll fix it in post. Yeah. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. But yeah, again, we are talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We're going to be talking about everything Indiana Jones in this episode. So thank you so much for joining. If you are a fan of Indiana Jones, then you've tuned into the right episode here. If you don't know already, you got myself, Renee, Low-Key Geek here, and my buddy Blake the Wolf. We are the Movie Time Movie Bros, where we talk about movies every week. Thank you for tuning in, like I said before. If you're brand new and you don't know a damn thing about us, well, you should catch up and learn. And the best way to do that is by subscribing, following, listening to our episodes, liking them if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, following us, all that good stuff. Yeah.
It's Indie Week. Follow your indie content creators.
That's it. Yeah. And this week we are one of many, I'm sure. Where we stand on Dial of Destiny? Well, you're about to find out shortly, because I got the chance to see it yesterday. Blake just saw it right prior to this recording, so you're going to get a fresh reaction from him. And he also just informed me that he just watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull just in the last couple of days for the first time. Yep. So talk about what a great comparison to have a conversation about right now, especially with what people originally thought of that movie compared to what I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about this movie. It's going to be a very interesting conversation that a lot of people are having this weekend and for the next couple of weeks. So I guess we might as well just dive into things at this point. No need to preamble and filibuster and all that kind of. Unless you have something you want to say.
Indiana Jones is. Yeah, everyone knows Indiana Jones. It's a thing. I was surprised that the last movie was 15 years ago.
I know. Yeah.
If you had told me it was like 2017, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
15 years ago. So I think the first thing I'll say is, I am not as big of an Indiana Jones fan as you, is my understanding. You're more of the 80s guy. Yeah. And you rewatch all of them recently. I've broken it up over time. I, of course, was raised on it. There was the PC game, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, yeah.
I knew Indiana Jones, and I knew Han Solo, right? Like, these are characters, legendary. You would have a fuller relationship with it, and you've also rewatched them, so you're going to have more recency with all of them in your mind. I am going to be more like the film history, film nerd guy who is entertained by things like this.
Right.
So that's why I like having these conversations with you, is we kind of meet each other in the middle and have a full conversation about a new movie and try to figure out, like, is it good and does it do its job, and you know, where does it stand compared to the other ones? I'm curious where you see all that, but I'm wondering if you got a little bit of whiplash by snaking your way through the different Yeah, the trajectory, and then also like a lot of time travel-y stuff going on where you
Yeah.
dealt with a lot of different versions of Mr. Harrison Ford in the last
Yeah.
few days. So how was the maybe we start there. How was the marathon? How was the indie binge?
The binge was actually pretty enjoyable, to be honest with you. Every now and then I do like to go back to those movies and rewatch them. Um, I may not necessarily go through the entire library and catalog like in a week or whatever the case is, but I'll go back to, let's say, Raiders or Last Crusade, which I think for a lot of people they consider that to be probably one of the better movies of the entire series and everything. But yeah, I am a longtime fan of Indiana Jones. I remember the first time I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's an interesting story because I was at my uncle's place, and he owned Betamax. Yeah, he didn't have VHS; he owned Beta, which is the smaller cassettes, which I believe Sony was trying to promote and push out, and they failed. But he had it on Betamax, and he would pop it in, and I watched it for the very first time. And of course, my first reaction was, "Oh, it's Han Solo," because I knew Star Wars before Indiana Jones.
Were you, give or take? Like, was the movie fresh?
I
I'm
was
not
like,
asking you to dox yourself, but you were like
no.
42.
Yeah. I was a 7 or 8 at the time when I first watched Raiders.
Perfect age.
Yeah, it is because I feel like every boy at that time, we fall in love with kind of like the swashbuckling adventure type of series and movie, right? It shows in the cartoons we used to watch and in the movies that we tend to like gravitate towards. So it made a lot of sense. And then obviously after that, I watched Temple of Doom, and I just fell in love with the entire series. And it's interesting too when you look back. It's crazy how Indiana Jones owned the 80s, because the first movie came out in 81, the second movie came out in 83, I think, and then the Last Crusade came out in 89. So it was really a predominantly 80s franchise, and
Had Blade Runner in there and the second 2 Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
there's a run there where the dude has some of the biggest franchises.
It's
and the
amazing.
Most, like, legacy. It's unbelievable. And swashbuckling is a good word for the Harrison Ford character. It's just like that adventure, like a modern day cowboy, a John Wayne, but he's got more of a sense of humor and a softness to him, but he's still like a tough guy.
Yep.
But he's a sweetheart underneath all of that kind of thing. Like, I think he's essentially like a perfect action hero for that era, that generation, where we're going from the John Waynes to the, I don't know what we have like today, who that legacy necessarily goes to.
Yeah.
But he's essentially he's a perfect actor for that, and absolutely crushed it for half a decade.
It's amazing.
Maybe one of the best of any actor ever. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's some people who have like a couple franchises in them. That to have 3 big ones that have been remade in recent years is unreal. Like, to have that staying power.
Yeah, and it's iconic too. Like every role he touched, what ended up becoming pretty iconic. Depending on where you stand in like your movie fandom or your taste in certain type of media and all that, like everyone knows who Indiana Jones is. And when you think of Indiana Jones, automatically you think of Harrison Ford. Like you don't really think of anybody else and all that stuff.
I think of the cartoon. What was it called again? Young Indiana.
The Young
Jones,
Indiana Jones and all that.
Yeah, that's what I think. Wait, who's Harrison Ford? Yeah, of course you think of Harrison Ford. I'm a big Blade. I think these are good franchises for you and I too. These are things that we either really liked when we were young and kind of through our whole lives, and we were both seeing them around the same age. I'm assuming, right? Like
close enough, I think.
Star Wars, Indiana Jones. I think I'd put off Blade Runner until later when 2049 came out, but 2049 is one of my favorite movies, and Blade Runner also, of course. So this is one of those places where you and I, on the like classic films and blockbuster 80s nerd culture stuff, like we have a full overlap. Our Venn diagram is pretty much the same.
Right.
Partially helpful because we're both 7-year-old boys when we see our first Indiana Jones movies and go, awesome, I want more of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So reliving all of that this week was enjoyable, and again, you can't help but remember where you were when you saw these movies and kind of like your childhood like memories while watching it, and you know the adventures you would have in your head about this character, where you want this character to end up, and all that stuff. And then you start creating mini storylines of, oh, you know, if Indy had to tackle this is probably what would happen, and all that. And then after The Last Crusade, for a long time, we didn't get anything. We got maybe a video game here and there, several books, comic books, whatever the case is. So when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, obviously tons of people, including myself, were excited because it's like, oh, we're finally going to get another entry into the Indiana Jones kind of mythos. And then we got what we got. And for a lot of people, they were very disappointed. I was very confused. I was like, what happened? Like something weird happened. And then to have that long lasting effect 15 years ago, where it was a situation where I don't think we're going to get another one after this. And I think this is where the mythos ends at this point. You know, then Disney buys Lucasfilm, and then they make an announcement. We're going to make another Indiana Jones movie. Harrison Ford is on board, blah, 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 this and that. And we got not Spielberg to direct it. We got James Mangold, the guy who's responsible for Walk the Line, Copland, Logan, Ford versus Ferrari. Like, these are great movies in their own rights. These are enjoyable movies. So we're like, oh, we got a pretty decent director to direct this movie. This could be something. So obviously the hype was there and everything like that. Then they premiered it at Cannes, however you want to say it. Yeah, and we've been through that regimen already before. And people were just panning it left and right. You know, and all of a sudden the word came out like, oh, this may not be good at all. But you have to go into it with a fresh mind, an open mind, and be like, you know what? Maybe that crowd wasn't meant for that movie. You know, I mean, it's kind of weird that they would premiere it at a very prestigious event like that. So maybe it wasn't the right crowd. So I went into it, and I do my usual thing. Again, those of you already know, Kaufman Astoria Cinemas, afternoon showtime. That's me. That's where I am. And the audience was the theater itself was like half full. I mean, school's out, you know, so more people are free to. We're going into a holiday weekend this weekend for July 4th, so people are off from work or they took off. And I was surprised, and maybe I shouldn't have been. It was mostly seniors, like older generation. You know, and it reminded me of when we watched Elvis when that came out, where my audience was kind of that audience. So it shows you, oh, this is the legacy of this character. Like, people love this from back in the day. You know, they love and of course, these are people who grew up watching Harrison Ford and all that, you know, so they consider him to be one of those like top tier actors, kind of like your Paul Newmans, your Robert Redfords, all that. Like they would put him in that category. And then the movie shows, right? And it plays out. At the end, some people clapped, you know, some people were like really pumped. I sat there dumbfounded. I was like, what? It's same feeling I got after Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like, what the heck just happened? Because this was not what I was expecting. And for most of it, I felt very disappointed because I didn't have feelings for the movie as I watched it. Yeah. It's one of those surprised. It's one of those hard things to describe because I wasn't what did the new kids say today? Like middling. It was very middle or mid. Right? Yeah, it was very mid because I wasn't overly enthusiastic. I didn't feel overly thrilled. I wasn't like at the edge of my seat. I wasn't mad and I wasn't sad. I was just, you know, like I'm watching this. I'm like, it's weird.
Do you think you'd rather have hated it or like had a strong reaction? Or...
Yes. 100%. I would have rather like, this is bullshit. They fucked up the whole thing. You know, they ruined the franchise, blah, 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 blah. I rather felt that than be like, huh? Like really confused as to a lot of the creative choices that they decided to do. I do understand why they may have done that, but at the same time, I'm wondering, but you didn't have to do it like that, you know? And I don't know. I think it's just, I think it's also a product of maybe the whole nostalgia thing has run its course, and maybe certain things that we grew up with that we enjoyed should be just left in the past, which is kind of interesting because this movie kind of addresses a similar kind of topic where maybe some things were just should have just been left alone in the past instead of trying to reinvent it or recreate it or revisit it and all that. So those are just my initial kind of like, you know, above the surface kind of like feelings and emotions of it. You just saw it, so you have a fresh, like, I had time to like mull it over and like sit with it and all that, and this is really how I feel. Like, what are your like initial thoughts before we start really diving into the whole meat and potatoes of it?
Fairly empty theater, similar crowd. I did see like a generation, what looked like a grandpa, a dad, a kid. That was kind of sweet to see. But for the most part, I think part of what happened is they lost what that generation would have been with Crystal Skull. Because otherwise, if they'd had a hit, you could have one of those things where it's multiple generations of people going to see the movie together. And we've talked about before, that can be box office, just a money grab if you have every age group has been affected by this franchise kind of concept. Personally, this is funny because I didn't think you and I would be differing this much. I have a really hot take that I'm kind of holding on to. I'll get to it in a second. It's not. I'm gonna let me get to it in a second. Overall, I wasn't that mad or that happy about the movie. Similarly, mad, but I did enjoy it and I did think it was successful. I think it did a good job. I think. How do I put this? Actually, before I get to that, your theater, I had a couple people who seemed into it, and it was a mostly empty theater.
Yeah,
I was surprised because I'd been shopping for Oppenheimer and Barbie tickets and hoping people cancel seats and I can maybe get better seats, whatever. Sold the hell out. If you're looking at like
fascinating, I love hearing that.
The main screens on the first night, like the best theater, it's full, and it's been full for a minute now. Like since they dropped, I'm pretty on top of this stuff. I get the notification, I put it off a little bit. By the time I get around to it, within a day or two, full. Indiana Jones, I could have sat anywhere except like 3 seats when I booked my ticket yesterday. Like that's really sad. Yeah, I'm guessing this will be a bit of a flop, and it might have some legs, a holiday weekend, be in the theater for a few weeks, and enough people see it. But I don't think it's going to be a success financially. There's always a question when we talk about. Sorry, before I get to that, what was your theater's reaction? Were people into it? Was it empty?
Yeah, like throughout the movie, I heard enough audible responses that people were really into the movie. You know, like they would be like super amped at certain action scenes. You know, when certain the callbacks like to past movies, like when you see Sala for the first time showing up, you know, everyone's like, "Oh, that dude, I love that guy." Or when you hear certain references, like there was a moment where Indiana Jones is scaling up a cliff or a wall, and you know the whole age thing comes up, and it's like, I'm this old guy, I drank the blood of blah blah blah, and I almost had my heart ripped out, you know. So it's like references and callbacks to the old movies, and you heard like audible like laughs and chuckles, and people like, hey, I love that movie too, you know, and all that. So, and like I said, by the end of the movie, people clapped. And for the most part, I think a lot of that older generation really enjoyed it. So, you know, it could have been mixed, you know, because again, there was younger people in the audience too, like myself. I didn't hear much from them, but again, you can't hear from everybody. So it's kind of, I would say, like, if I were to like really judge it just based on the auditory responses, it would be like straight down the line in the middle.
Unless it's someone talking on their cell phone or booing,
right,
or snoring, it's pretty good anytime you hear ooh or a laugh or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And how full was the theater ish?
Half. It was half full.
That's a lot fuller than mine. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, but you did see it the opening day, Thursday. So people who were excited to see it would have gone to that show.
Yeah. And it was like, afternoon, so it was like a good amount of time, I think, and plus I'm in a more, not suburban, but more suburban-like type of neighborhood than Manhattan, so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll on some of those references, feel free to sprinkle those in because I haven't seen them since a couple of them I haven't seen since I was younger. And then I think it's the kind of thing it'll just be on, or everyone's aware of all the references. So I've probably seen the total of Indiana Jones recently, and I rewatched the Sean Connery one a few years ago. But the references, my brain doesn't really work as good that way. There's times where like I know a reference, but then people are reacting. I'm going, wait, what are we reacting to? And I have to, look it up.
What did I miss? Yeah.
So, feel free to sprinkle those in. There's not much to get into on like what's this movie really about, but it is funny what you're mentioning. It's kind of arguing for itself to even exist by being like, no, Indiana Jones, you belong in present day also.
Right.
And you don't need to just go in the past. I'm like, that's kind of what we're doing. But that leads me to my overall question about Indiana Jones. There's these products that we really cherish when we're younger, these like IP or films. I know for me, Sandlot is one of those.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
When I hear from other people is Goonies.
Yep.
I didn't watch Goonies till I was in my 20s, and I said, I don't get it. And people who saw it when they were young go, it's the greatest movie of all time. What are you talking about? I have Goonies tattoos. I have all the Goonies merch. And I'm going like, but you have nostalgia for it. And I don't know. Another one, actually, a decent example. I'm going to bring it up now. I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. When did you first see Space Jam, Renee? Because that was my favorite movie. And if you ask me, is that movie good? I would say, hell yeah. Worse, if I rewatched it a few years ago, like I did, I go, holds up, still great. How much of that was nostalgia? Because when did you watch Space Jam, Renee?
So this is, those who know me know that I never watched Space Jam when it first came out. That it was one of those things where I just missed the whole.
Movies and doesn't love basketball. That's what.
Yeah, like I hate. Yeah, and I hate.
Renee.
Yeah, I hate animation. I don't like Michael Jordan, and I think Bugs Bunny is a piece of shit. So that's
blockbusters, IP, all of it. Nothing about it. Bill Murray, anti. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah, him. Forget it. Even more so. Like he sucks.
Ewing, anti.
Charles Barkley, that idiot. It's like, come on. But I watched it.
You don't actually know
yeah.
All of the things we
I do. Yeah, everything is the complete opposite of what we're saying right now. But because you and I and another friend of ours were having that conversation, because we were getting ready for the new movie to come out. Like the new movie was coming out, and the conversation was like, "Oh, Renee has never seen Space Jam." So, what year did Space Jam Legacy come out? That's like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
2 to 3, and the original was what, 95?
90, yeah. So I finally decided to watch it to see what all this hype was about, and I was just like, it was okay. I mean,
greatest movie of all time. I had like 15 friends coming over for a birthday party sleepover. We all watched it. And we had the best night of our lives. I bet if you ask any of them, and we put it on right now, everyone goes, it's great. See, it holds up.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, the same as with me and Goonies.
Yeah.
And people are looking at you like, what do you mean? It's amazing. Right. It's so Michael Jordan. It's basketball. It's anime. It's Looney Tunes. I think that's kind of what I'm. That's the conclusion of your Space Jam thought.
Yeah.
It's kind of a meh.
Yeah.
It's not. Was it bad? I actually don't know.
I mean,
how you felt about it.
I don't say it was bad. I would say it was a product of the time. Like it was, it felt very cheesy, 90s. Corny, it felt very 90s. Okay. If you are someone who followed sports in the 90s, if you're someone who followed like kind of the trajectory of the Looney Tunes characters and all of that spoke for that time. And again, if I watched it at that time, I probably would have been all in on the, oh, this is great. This is actually pretty hilarious. But it, for me, who, didn't see it at that time and saw it later on, I'm like, it's kind of like lost to me because I wasn't part of it when it originally came out.
Well, I guess that's another question too. It's not just how old are you when you see it, it's how does the thing age? Do
Yeah.
you think if you were of your present mind in 96 when it came out and saw it, that you would have been like, yeah, it's for kids, but it's okay? Or do you think you would have been into it? Does that make sense? Because like that's
Yeah.
how old someone is, how it ages. There's things like comedy
Yeah.
where as we've talked about this before, we don't have to get into it, but like comedies don't age more than 20 years usually. If for
Rarely.
a
Yeah.
comedy to really stand the test of time, it is rare.
Very
So the
rare.
things
Yeah.
that your parents thought was funny, you might understand the reference and get, but
Yeah.
one generation above that, it almost might as well just be like not funny or not even
Right.
attempting to be funny, with exceptions, or physical comedies are an exception to that. But do you think it was more what age? If you had seen it as a kid in 96, I already know you would have loved it. I am
Yeah.
certain of that. Do you think it's like it aged poorly or that you were the wrong age for it, or maybe both?
I think for me personally, it's a little bit of both,
Sure.
because
That
like
makes sense.
I love animation, and I love if they could, I love it when they attempt to blend live action and animation together. Like I
Space
think,
Jam 2, you said was your number one movie.
well, that in itself had its own little issues there, but I gave it a shot. And I went into it like with a very open mind and all that,
Yeah.
and it didn't stick the landing for me.
No.
But
Which
but
go
I
ahead.
will say, like comparing the two, I definitely did enjoy the original Space Jam more than
Sure.
Legacy because I
I
thought it was
mean,
a better
yeah.
done movie.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It'd be hard pressed to find someone who disagrees with that.
right, yeah,
Unless you're just the biggest LeBron stan ever. Um, we're talking a lot about Space Jam, but we're also talking about Indiana Jones, and we're talking about the Goonies, we're talking about Sandlot, we're talking about anything
it's
with these
nostalgia.
questions. Because what I'm getting at here, hear me out.
Yeah,
I gave Crystal Skull 3.5 stars and the new Indiana Jones 3.5 stars. They're closer to 4 than 3. I watched them and I go, this is doing what it's trying to do. This is an Indiana Jones movie through and through. It's kind of corny and it's kind of roll your eyes and it's kind of campy and it's kind of fantastical. It's got like that like dirty sand covered mystery. Is it really is magic real? Is it our love of science and learning and that
mm,
spark? And he's having these big adventures, and a lot of the exact same beats happen in every single one of the movies where he'll just avoid danger, but then it turns out he's trapped anyway, or something like that. Like the same cadence of where it's not really funny, but it's like the way things kind of time themselves and
mm,
the way the plot unfurls. He thinks he's safe, and now he's in a room with a snake or something like that. Like these kind of things happen in all the movies. My theory, and this is going to be blasphemous to, I'm sure, people who are like purists for the old ones. What if the original Indiana Jones movies aren't that good? What if they're at the right time? We were at the right age for sure, but even if we were adults then, and they've aged fairly well, but there's a reason there's not a lot of young people these movies. This isn't Star Wars. This isn't like you can wait 30, 40 years and people who grew up on it and were watching it as young people would still be like, that is actually a high quality product that will stand the test of time. These movies, I'm going to go and say it, are just as good as the original ones, give or take. And I'm going to be here's the argument for my objectivity, which I don't know if this is really true because I was a kid when I saw them and I have love for those and I don't really love these, but I did think they were successful. This isn't my genre at all.
mm-hmm,
This is, I don't really love the like magical, fantastical,
right,
historical thing happening. I like things that are more realistic and more grounded in
more
reality. What I like
grounded.
about
Yeah,
Indiana Jones is that he's just a professor who's got a few skills. He's decent with a whip. He's okay with a gun, but other than that, he's kind of a normal dude who has some belief that there might be something else going on in the world and pursues that. And then you see some Nazis' face get melted off, and you're like, okay, that's ridiculous, but I do like it when Nazis' faces melt off, so I'll go
yeah,
along with it. Um, not really my genre. And so when I rewatch the originals, I'm kind of eye rolling a little bit, where I'm like, this is a little silly. It's camp. Like I
mm-hmm,
think the original Indiana Jones movies are like very good camp. I don't know how successful they really, really are, and I don't know if many people do because everyone saw them. They were box office successes back in the day. I'll give it that. It may have been like the right movie, the right time, the right movie star. If you'd had, I don't know, what a young Emilio Estevez, maybe that's the wrong generation. If you had like a Michael Douglas, and they're like, it just doesn't work. Something about the character just doesn't translate. Michael Douglas actually makes sense as Indiana Jones. I'll try to think of someone else. Yeah, Bill Murray play Indiana Jones, but he tries to do it seriously. And if it wasn't the right action star at the right time, the right director, early George Lucas, right? Maybe these are just as good of movie products, and yet we're comparing them to that original thing that we're nostalgic for. Is that possible, or how does that feel to you?
I mean,
do you know that the originals are good? Is this blasphemy?
I'm not going to say it's blasphemy because I do understand what you're trying to say. But I do have a counter to it too. And I think, and I'm hoping it would make sense to not only you, but to those listening and watching right now. Because what Blake is trying to say is not blasphemy. I do understand what he's trying to say here. And also, just to correct the record before people start flaming you in the comments, the original was directed by Spielberg. It was Lucas who wrote it. So yeah, again, I just don't want calm down, people. All right, yeah, it was a
worked up
simple
right now.
mistake.
No, I love that you're worked up right now, and please keep writing in the comments. I love if that's what gets someone riled up. That makes me so happy.
Correction, Spielberg directed the first movie, you idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna get him back. I'm gonna let him know that he's an idiot. Yeah,
right.
I'm okay with that one. My bad.
But this is what I'll say. The original movies were made and meant to kind of mimic movies of that time period that they took place in. So, for example, Indiana Jones, the first two movies, and I believe the third, were all took place in the 30s, right? And the most popular form of entertainment at the time was like the serialized TV programs, the serialized movies. It's been well documented and known that Spielberg and Lucas grew up watching that stuff. Lucas made Star Wars kind of an homage to like Flash Gordon serials and all that. That's why it's kind of like a space opera. When Spielberg worked with Lucas on the Indiana Jones movies, it was, again, homage to those type of serialized swashbuckling type of shows that they grew up watching or movies that they watched in the theaters as kids. And because of that, it still fits that mold. So if you are someone who's into those movies, you could go back and watch those movies now and see like, oh yeah, these are great representations of those movies at the time. If a younger generation cannot watch those movies, these are probably the same people who cannot watch Casablanca, who cannot watch like that stuff, unless they're really into it or they're film students or whatever the case is. Star Wars is a little bit different because I feel like when you deal with like space opera, anything space or alien, that still can relate to today, in a certain way.
Logical in a way that more than Indiana Jones is.
Right.
I think I'm not trying to make, like Greek, like part of the reason why the superhero movies nowadays are essentially like those kinds of stories will be timeless is we're dealing with like the same Greek tragedies and the reason why people still study Greek gods and are fascinated by it. I don't know if Indiana Jones necessarily does that. It might be more localized to a reference to 1930s entertainment, 1940s entertainment, to it's like a and like just one guy's adventure. He's not really doing a full, and maybe I'm wrong. Like if someone, honestly, I am curious about this. This is when I would be like, oh, thank you for leaving that comment. Someone could make a claim that he's following the hero's journey or something. I haven't thought about Indiana Jones in that way, but Star Wars feels transcendent in that regard in a way that Indiana Jones doesn't. And also for the reason you're saying, the space of it all. Yeah.
In a certain way, you're right. I think the appeal of Indiana Jones is that, again, it plays out like a story, like you're reading a story or a novel. and it's a chapter of this guy's life. Because every time you watch an Indiana Jones movie, it takes place like all of a sudden you're in a situation that this guy usually finds himself in somehow, and he's trying to get out of it. Like the Raiders, it starts off with him in pursuit of this idol, and then all shit breaks, like happens, and and all that stuff. In the second movie, he finds himself in another situation. The third movie, it starts off with a flashback of him being in a certain situation, and then like present time for him where the movie's taking place, it's a situation related to that original situation. So, and you see him meet up with people that we don't know, but he's known for years or decades, and like he's my buddy, he's my friend. We go on adventures together. I'll never forget when Temple of Doom starts, and they're in the little restaurant, and he's dealing with like the Asian gangsters, and he has a waiter that helps him. It's like, oh, we've been on so many adventures, Indy, and he dies like that. It's like, this is it for me. It's like, oh my God, I would have loved to see the backstory of them two like working together in the past and all that. But you
could almost see like a James Bond where like different actors can play it at different times.
Yeah.
And you can almost have it set in different eras too, which it kind of has done. And with Harrison Ford, it would almost be fun to see a transcendent Indiana Jones character where and maybe they tried to do that where they could pass the reins to a younger actor, and then it didn't really work out for a bunch of reasons with Crystal Skull. I don't know. But you could see that, right? Where just every 10 years there's a new Indiana Jones guy, and it's more of like a type of character, and someone's got a new angle on it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's why those movies, in my opinion, are timeless. It's the audience taste that changes, right? Because as a younger generation, they may not be into that anymore. Like I totally understand why someone who's never watched Goonies in the 80s will watch it now and think it's a piece of shit. Like, I totally get it, because it is a product of that time. But it also was a movie made to mimic a product of that time. Like Indiana Jones is made for a product of a certain genre, a certain type of form of entertainment that's timeless. It's just who's into it or who's not. It's like, I guarantee you ask normal, everyday, they're not millennials, but what's the younger generation after millennials? It's like Z, the Z generation. Yeah. If you ask them, generation have you? Z, sure. Okay. Yeah, whatever. If you ask them, hey, have you ever watched Casablanca? Have you ever watched any Hitchcock film? Have you ever watched, all that stuff? Majority of them will probably say no. And then majority of them will probably say, I have no interest in going back and watching a black and white movie. And that's just how it is, right? And all that. But what I think that makes it different now with these new iterations of the Indiana Jones movies that we're getting is, I think they're trying to recapture those moments of that time period where the era that they're making the movies in has already fully advanced and moved on from it. And I think one of the things that really took me out of Kingdom of a Crystal Skull was the amount of CG that was used in it. The minute I'm starting to see gophers running around that don't look like real gophers, or monkeys swinging from trees that don't look like real monkeys, like once I started seeing a lot of that stuff, I was like, wait a minute, this no longer feels like Indiana Jones to me. This really feels more fabricated and all. So it makes a lot of the scenarios and situations far-fetched, a little bit more absurd than what he was finding himself involved in the past, right? In this now movie, and I'm just going to say this right now, we're open to spoiler territory now. We might as well just like dive in and say this stuff. The fact that you had 20 full minutes in the beginning of the movie retelling a story that took place in the 30s with it's not I don't even think it's de-aging. I think it was like a deep fake, because I think the body was different. I think it was a different body, but you had a CG generated young Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
With
are you sure? I'm not trying to say you're wrong.
I'm thinking.
Sure
I'm guessing. Okay. I'm guessing because that's what it looked like to me. Because the body moved like a young Indiana Jones. The face was not his, obviously it's CG, but the voice was a current Harrison Ford. And
AI, wow.
yeah,
They have new VFX technology for this movie coming through decades old footage that the Film Studio had
mhm.
and used AI. That's amazing.
Yeah, see, now
Wow.
for an accomplishment, kudos. I mean, that's amazing what
Yeah.
they were able to do.
That's better than what they did with the last couple de-aging movies we saw.
Right,
It was the
right.
best I'd seen to date, and it turns out de-aging is not the answer, where you try to iron out wrinkles in
Yeah,
Photoshop
which they
afterwards.
did do later on in the movie, like when
Yeah.
when they had the
Huh.
flashback of him and the father of Phoebe Waller-Bridger's character. He looked like an older Indy, but not current old Indy, you know.
Yeah.
But that looked better, in my opinion. That looked like more realistic because at least the voice matched the face. Yeah, you had old gruffy Harrison talking like young Indiana Jones. That did not work at all for me. I was just like, what's happening here? This just sounds, because he sounds like already defeated and already like he should be more energetic, more like, you know.
How much am I getting paid for this project? Sorry, I meant hand me the mysterious object.
Yeah, I'm never letting this character go. You know, and I wasn't expecting to see a full 20 minutes of all that. And immediately you set the tone for me. It's like, oh my God, this just feels weird already in itself. Then the whole time traveling aspect of it. It's like now we're getting into a territory that's very, very not far-fetched, but not within a realm of Indiana Jones that I would have expected to see. Because yeah, I understand like Indiana Jones can like deal with like kind of mystical things, supernatural stuff, you know, things that harken to like you know, voodoo or like kind of like the unexplained and all. When they touched kind of like multi-dimensional travel and aliens in Crystal Skull, I was just like, okay, now you're starting to approach a territory where I'm like, I'm not sure Indy fits here at this point. Now you're fast forwarding and now you're going back in time, you know, and I'm just like, wow.
Another like meta text where the movie is doing that in
Right.
reality, going
Right.
back to, they're trying to go back to the era, realizing they can't,
Right.
and that he shouldn't be stuck in the past is part of it, but also just the attempt to do so and then bailing or
Yeah.
wanting to bail out from that is interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't view that as much of a problem, but part of me thinks it's all kind of ridiculous, right? Like,
Sure.
there's the thing that it's like what, and I actually don't know the metaphysics of Indiana Jones, but I think it's essentially there's things that are like magical, but they can actually be explained with science, and so an archaeologist and scientist is the best guy to uncover these things, and it's not ever doing pure magic. I think this one also did that. Now, if you're skeptical and not really loving the movie, I can see why it didn't work. I tried to think of it through, like, the one where he just magically appears in an other time from a long time ago. No.
Mhm.
I guess what I'm saying is if you're not feeling the movie, it's going to look ridiculous. If you are, it works because it still follows essentially the same rules. And in fact, it's doing like Archimedes math-based, old school math-based time travel concept.
Yeah.
And if you go to this point at this time, at this angle, and follow this compass, then you can kind of get through. And it was absurd enough, but they all have those gaps in the science of it that they're not going to really be able to explain. But they're also, I don't think, ever going to go full magic with these things.
Right.
Where now Indiana Jones is like, anyway. I think it worked for me because I'm skeptical of all of them, and that's part of where my objectivity about it comes in handy. Because I think they're all equally ridiculous in that regard, and that this one isn't more so. Am I wrong? You could make a case that I'm wrong, but if you're not feeling the movie, it's going to fall flat, and if you are, then it'll work.
Every situation that Indy finds himself in is hard to explain if you don't believe in it, right? And I think you make a good point because when I watched Crystal Skull, I watched it with a friend who's really into physics and really into all that stuff, you know, kind of like the Interstellars and all that. Like he eats movies like that up because he's like, he follows it, he believes in it, all that stuff. Because there's a scientific reasoning and explanation behind everything that happens. So when that movie ended, he sat down with me for like a good 15 minutes. I was like, well, you see, if you look at it in a more physics-centric kind of mindset, this could really happen. This is very explainable and all that.
Interstellar or Crystal Skull?
Crystal Skull, because like the beings, they're not from space; they're from another dimension, right? That's how they explained it, right. And everything was done was explained in physics. Now, in this new movie, Dial of Destiny, math is talked a lot. The mathematical equations and everything is discussed a lot. So if you're someone who's like a nerd into all that, you are probably going to say this is very easily explainable, and I appreciate what they're trying to attempt here and all that. At the end of the day, yeah, it's all very ridiculous, and it's all very like, all right, we have not seen this in real life yet, so this is bullshit. This will never happen. But
it's far-fetched, even if it could be possible. Right.
Yeah, but I think also it just, for me personally, and I can't speak for everyone who's not liking this movie or who may have a negative opinion about this movie, it didn't feel like a choice that we would have probably expected Indiana Jones to find himself in. And I don't know if it's so much of a situation or scenario, but I also didn't like a lot of the character choices they made with his character. kind of like, so again, we're talking spoilers, so I'm going to recap kind of where Indy is at this time during this movie. Indy is like in his 70s now at this point. He is retiring completely from work as a professor. So we catch him like on his retirement day when he's about to be done. Marion, he are separated because, and this was an interesting thing that they kind of explained. Mutt's dead.
Shia LaBeouf is dead.
He's dead. And how he dies is because he enrolled in the army. He enlisted in the army. And he died while, during service. And because of all of those things, Indy is depressed. He is like super sad. He's like not himself. He's at the point where like he doesn't give a fuck about anything anymore.
Why are you even doing this? Is the question he keeps asking the people. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Who woke me up? I want to be in my trailer again. Yeah.
Right. Which we already saw happen to a very iconic person in Luke Skywalker when that movie came out. Kind of like someone who's just like, fuck it all. I don't give a shit. I'm going to throw away my lightsaber. Like at this point, he might as well just threw away his whip, or whatever. And then you kind of see him get reinvigorated because, I'm actually off on an adventure, but he's not fully in. His friend, Sala, who was like, I bought a ticket too because I want to go with you because I miss these times. I miss these days. And he's like, no, it's not like that anymore. It's like those days are behind us. So he's like, dude, you should be feeling that way too because this was your life. This has been your whole existence this whole time, and it was very depressing and sad to see him that way. And the way I describe it in my Letterboxd review was, it's like watching your parents age and get older because you're so used to seeing them so energetic and doing and capable of accomplishing so many different things. But then when you see them get old, they're slower, their energy is lackluster, and they're not as into things as much anymore. And watching this series right now is kind of like it's kind of like that at this point, because at the end of the movie, and I know we're jumping around and all this kind of stuff like that, but there's a reason. They go back.
You made me think of the ending.
Yeah, because they go back. Yeah, they go back in time, right? They're all astonished, like, oh my god, we're actually here. This actually worked. This is like the moment Indy would be like, all like fascinated and kind of like when he got the Grail for the first time and like, oh, this is like amazing. And then he unfortunately gets shot, so he's in pain. They crash land. Everything looks dire. Right. And he meets the inventor of the dial that they're it's Archimedes, right? That's
Archimedes.
Archimedes, right. And at that point, Indy is about to give up. He's like, you know what? I'm not gonna make it, so just leave me here. I'm going to just stay here and I'm just going to die with an inventor that I admire. And then you have Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's like, no, you can't just stay here. You don't belong here. We need you in our timeline, which is their present and all that. But you have an Indy who's like ready to give up. He's like my life is shit at this point.
At least ready for a nap. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I've done it all. I'm ready to just call it quits.
Huh.
And that was so disappointing.
Yeah. Part of the whole thing about Indiana Jones is he is cynical and he's kind of condescending and he's kind of has that general gruff, like, wow, here we go again kind of attitude.
Yeah.
But he's excited by his passion and his field.
Yes. Yeah.
Part of the problem of this plot, and I think part of the reason why that decision doesn't work, to really sell why he's that despondent, you'd have to really make it sad. You'd have to lean into his dead kid and the divorce.
Yeah.
Instead, they show the divorce paper. I go, oh, are we going to be really sad during this movie? Is this like a lovelorn? Like he's crying himself to sleep and like can't get inspired to go get coffee in the morning.
Right.
And then his kid's dead. And like, are we going to do funeral flashbacks? Like that's the saddest funeral.
Yeah.
And they don't kind of justify why he's so depressed by bringing you along with him and making you feel that and being like, oh, I would be tired too.
Yeah.
Instead, it's got this weird bothness as if all life leans towards, I'm tired, I want a nap, I'm an old guy, I'm curmudgeonly, here, I really don't want to keep going. Like, please let me die. Like, that's a really sad moment when someone's like talking to their grandparent, their parents. It's not like I'm ready. I've lived a full, great life. It's like, no, I want to die. Like that's a really rough thing to sit through with one of your favorite people.
Right.
And so doing that with Indiana Jones, I see it there. That doesn't really work. To me, what did work is the adventure and the other people, including the bad guy, Mads Mikkelsen, absolutely crushing it. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge and then the young kid, I think all did a good job with their characters and their roles. If you told me this was supposed to be, which this might sound absurd, I don't know. If you told me this was supposed to be leave Indiana Jones in the past, and now Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the new Indiana Jones character going to take the baton on or something, right? Like, I'd be like, actually, that kind of makes sense. She was like passionate about it, having to learn some big life lessons about is the money or helping people more important or donating it to a museum. Part of the reason why Indiana Jones's motivations didn't seem pure, it wasn't for love of the game and the sport of archaeology. He kept being like, we just got to give that to a museum. We're not going to sell it. And it was just like, I got to do what's right. And right now I'm caught up in another mess and I have to, as if he didn't want to be doing archaeology at all. He was just doing what he felt like he morally had to do. Like, well, crap, now I'm stuck with these Nazis and I don't want them to end the world. And all of my past decisions are now irrelevant because they turn back time and the Nazis win, which I get it politically. He's correct, but that is that what we want from Indiana Jones? Is he's doing the thing because he has to, not because he loves to and wants to? Part of what's fun about him is his passion for this subject. And there's a time even when Mads Mikkelsen's character is asking, like, can someone help solve this riddle? And Indiana Jones isn't doing it, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is. Two things here. One, the reason Indiana Jones isn't doing it is because it's not the right thing to do to help Mads Mikkelsen's Nazi character.
Right.
Agreed. But the other one is like he's just not doing something and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is, and she's like treating it like a young Indiana Jones would, where he's making a lesson out of it. Like, anyone know the answer to this one? Anybody?
Yeah.
No, that's incorrect. And she is the passionate instructor, professor, lecturer type.
Right.
Indy was more when he was younger.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get behind a character who doesn't want to be in the movie at all. It's rough, and to do that, you kind of have to earn it, and I'm not sure that they did. I'll go with you on that criticism. While overall, I think the movie was successful, that was the hardest part, was watching Harrison Ford and his character trudge along, drag their feet, and asking the audience to come along in full spirits. It's not going to be an easy ask.
It's not, and again, for someone who is as iconic as he is, it's kind of weird to see someone else take over. Like, and don't get me wrong, Phoebe Waller-Bridge did an amazing job, but at the same time too, it's kind of positive negative also, because it made me more annoyed at her, because she was doing everything that Indy is supposed to be doing. Like, why isn't Indy doing this? You know, instead he's just there like, I'm not going to do it. You know, and then you realize, oh, she's doing all this stuff because she has another ulterior motive. Like she's either trying to create a distraction or trying to do something else. Again, everything that we saw Indiana Jones do in the past. So it is interesting how the roles have kind of switched. Now, if it was a different type of story, I think by the end of it, he would realize, oh, you know what? I was like that. And, you know, I missed those days. So I'm going to, you know, I learned an important life lesson and all that. But at the end of the movie, he wakes up still wondering where the hell he is, you know, kind of still like la-da-da. Marion comes back because, you know, she basically was told that I think Indy's going to die. You should be here. And he says, oh, I missed you. And they kind of rekindle their thing.
You mean when Forrest went back when Ginny was on her deathbed?
Yeah, right.
The same sad, like,
oh my God.
Oh yeah, you're finally rekindling it.
Yeah.
Both of you are pretty tired.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like what happens 2 years after that moment? Like one of them probably passed away, right? I mean,
well, 2 years, like Indiana Jones probably just jumped off the balcony. He was like, "Oh, finally, I kissed a girl again."
As he grabbed his hat, yeah, which I hated that closing thing too, where they have the hat dangling on the clothesline, and like, oh, I'm gonna grab it one last time. Like,
there's a moment when he sees it at some point, and someone brings him the hat. He goes, ooh, as if like, "Ooh, my hat!" As if he's not excited about anything, and he really loves his.
He just loves his hat. Yeah, he loves the hat.
It's a legendary hat, and
it's an awesome hat.
Service, but you're not doing very well because he didn't care about anything except he was excited. He goes, "Oh, my hat!"
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, I think that's another good point. If he got his spirit for adventure back,
right,
that would have been lovely. Instead, he goes, "Oh, I get to rest now. This thing that's been plaguing me, I'm sad about. She's here.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold her." And she smells him, and that's it. It's like, I finally get to rest. And if that's where it's going, that's what I'm kind of saying. It would almost make sense to hand it off to somebody else to say,
right,
oh, we're okay. That's a beautiful thing is when you go, oh, my grandparent is tired, and they finally get to rest. Like their pain is over. They're happy now. They're better off. Like that's a better version of it than them saying, I don't want to be here anymore and I'm fucking tired.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is it's not where you want to get in an action adventure movie.
Right.
You want him to rekindle his spirit and he's now like into it again. If all you're doing is ending it with him saying, finally, I get to rest after a few nights sleep, he wakes up, he's still like, still doesn't have any energy back. Okay. This should be the last Indiana Jones movie. Cause I don't know if maybe the next one he would get his spirit for adventure back after, but like it's getting harder to enjoy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, and you can also, I think it's going to flop. I don't know what the budget was. I can't imagine this making its money back.
I heard the budget was pretty nuts, especially since I think they had to do reshoots and all that too. So I don't know. I mean, I do think internationally this movie is going to do really well because again, iconic, you know, a figure. People love Harrison Ford internationally because again, he still resonates with like the old school actors, like acting tiers and all that. So people will always recognize him in international markets and everything. Kind of like I said, like your Robert Redfords, your Clooney's, your, you know, Tom Cruise. At this point, Tom Cruise is in that same tier too, because Cruise was huge in the 80s also as a younger person. So but it's
to answer the question, sorry, it was 300 million budget.
That's
it's looking at 65 million on the opening weekend, maybe 140 worldwide. Basically, it's not looking good, especially with the way numbers drop now more than they did before. So it needs to, which I still don't understand how these numbers quite work. There was a $300 million production budget, but they're saying it needs $750 million to because
of marketing. Because that doesn't include like marketing budget, PR, all the promotions, all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, because
It's not going to do that.
no,
There's no way in hell.
No. And I think it's also an effect of how many people were also disappointed with the last outing of Indiana Jones too. Like, I feel like, oh, if it's just going to be like that, then I don't have high expectations on this movie. I remember there was a week when D23 happened. And D23 is like the Disney centric convention where they made a lot of these announcements, and they released a lot of new trailers for their upcoming movies. The Little Mermaid was part of that. Indiana Jones was part of that. All that stuff. I remember the one that people were excited about the least was Indiana Jones, because I think a lot of people were just, it's gotten to the point where I think people are just tired of the franchise because of the poor outing of the last one. And, again, I think they look at Harrison Ford, it's like, he's so old. How can he still be doing this? Even though he is very passionate about the character and all that, which is fair. I wonder, though, I do wonder, because, with Spielberg directing the previous movies and him taking a break from this, I wonder how it would have felt if he directed this movie too. Because if anyone knows how to capture nostalgia well, it's him. And we saw that with Fabelmans. He still has that old school nostalgia lens that he has a very good keen eye on. Mangold is a little bit more modern. So I feel like Mangold tried to put a modern day spin to it in a way. It felt more like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, or a later.
Yeah, or I have to go off camera for 1 second.
Sure.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, yeah. So it kind of felt like more of these like modern swashbuckling type of movies that we've gotten. Maybe like later on Mummy, or Scorpion King, or whatever the case is. But it definitely, it rang more true to like Pirates, like the more recent Pirates movies. Because in a way it was lacking a lot of the pulpiness that the original movies had. It didn't feel campy at all. It did feel a little bit more modern. And the one thing that was lacking too is I really wish they honed in on Indy adjusting to the current decade that he's in. Because that's one of the things that I really liked about Crystal Skull, which, there are things I did like about that movie, was him adjusting to the 50s and the change in time. You're dealing with like the motorcycle heads, the greasers, as they called it, against the preppies. How people are in like motorcycles and all this kind of stuff like that. You have new technologies. You're in an age of the atom bomb being tested. So it's Indy like adjusting to a newer time that he wasn't ready for. And then now in the 70s, I believe this was like late 60s, right?
69 it would have been.
69, yeah. Because it's the moon, right?
Landing.
It's the moon landing. So again, it's another era that is so brand new to him that he's finding a hard time finding himself in and adjusting to. I would have loved to see them explore that more so. Like maybe if this was like Indy investigating the Russians going into space, or China going into space.
And goes to Woodstock and feels the music and is like, "Woo, let's go on an adventure." And he's tripping on his way to
and South he's tripping America. Balls. Yeah,
he's like looking for the ayahuasca, the origins of the real mystery.
Oh my god,
consciousness or something.
Yeah. I'm curious as how different it would have been, but like maybe for me personally, that's another reason why I felt very disconnected from this film. Let's talk about the acting real quick, because you brought up a lot of great performances. Yeah, I agree with you. Mads Mikkelsen he's just really good in everything that he does, and he was like the perfect villain in this movie.
It wasn't too big.
No,
it was somewhat subdued, but which it made it even creepier.
Yeah,
he was successful for sure, and he wasn't even doing any big moments of like crying, weeping, screaming very much. But I think that was the right choice for the character. Mads Mikkelsen could do that in his sleep. Yeah. We didn't have, thank goodness, the Cate Blanchett problem of the last one, which
unfortunately,
Cole,
Yeah.
blew my mind because she's the greatest
Yeah.
actress of all time,
Yeah.
top 3, top 5 ever. And I was literally watching it just trying to figure out, like, is it because the pieces around her suck? Is it because the dialogue sucks? I actually asked, is it possible they were saying, do an impression of the villain in Rocky and Bullwinkle? And
Yeah.
she did such a good job.
I
And she was,
believe that's it.
they may have said, we want you to turn up the camp to the point where it'll look like bad acting and people will
Yeah.
say she's a bad actress in this one. And it's actually, she did the job so well that she
Exactly.
did a good job of doing a bad job. Something like that had to be going on. Mads Mikkelsen did not do that. And it's almost like they learned their lesson the opposite way. They go, maybe do as little as possible rather than ridiculousness.
Yeah.
I
think
being a very bad guy.
Yeah, I think the whole problem with the Kate Blanchett character was that it was Lucas and Spielberg kind of like, yeah, we kind of wanted like this like really mustache twirling type of villain, you know, and very campy and over the top. And her being the great actress that she is was able to accomplish that. And that's what you got. But
Right.
it totally didn't work for a lot of people. And it was just like,
doesn't age well at all.
No.
At all. Back in the day, like the ridiculous stereotype of the bad guy from the country we don't like,
Right.
it's easier for people to swallow when they haven't met a bunch of people like we're in a less globalized world or less sensitive, or we haven't all heard what good accents sound like, etc.
Yeah.
Where it's just a caricature and a stereotype of some other bad guy. So I think that works. I also kind of like the angle of the Nazi who wants to kill Hitler. Something about that I thought was entertaining. Where I'm like,
because he wants the power, so it's like that's a very Nazi feeling.
So that's one aspect of it, but I think the other one where he's telling the former U.S. soldier, "You didn't win the war. Hitler lost the war," and he's saying, "I looked at Hitler's mistakes, and I didn't read it as he wanted the power. I read it as he wanted the Nazis to win, and he knew from history that Hitler loses the war." Which there's a version of that. I mean, every single war in history ever, if you switch this guy with that guy, maybe you have a different outcome, right? That's how I read it. Was he was actually not for the power for himself. He was pro-Nazi.
Well,
to the point where he became anti-Hitler.
You're right. Yeah. Like I shouldn't have said he wanted the power. He just wanted to do it right. And he's kind of like saying that like Hitler did it wrong.
Right.
Yeah, right. Hey, but
I'm sorry for any Nazis who were offended by my great pun just now of appropriating the word Reich for a stupid joke. Fuck off.
No, but it's true. It's like that is like the Nazi mentality. It's like perfection, right? Because again, they claim to be the perfect race, and that's what kind of like what started the whole thing. So it is fascinating to see someone with that mentality being like, well, Adolf messed up, and I'm just trying to go back to get rid of him and do it the right way. And just to
a lot of people. Yeah, please.
No, I just because I wanted to talk about that dialogue he had with that waiter, the ex-soldier. I'm like, that was the dialogue of destiny. That was such a creepy conversation because he was like, that is like evil. You know, he's like, are you happy with your country? It's like, do you feel like you're so happy that you won? It's like, you guys didn't win. Like that. It's just like you saw the seeds, like you see like how evil this guy thinks and all that, and that was so creepy.
Racist ideology in the subtext asking like, where are you
like
from?
Where are you from? Like your people. Do you know your people? Yeah.
Right. Do you know? Which obviously is pointing to the dynamic where it's a black hotel worker who's serving the food. So he's starting with that. And I'm assuming that the worker puts together pretty quickly this dude was a Nazi or is a Nazi. So he's pointing to that. And then he's asking him, how do you feel about having won the war? Are you happy with your victory? Something like that.
Yeah.
Just kind of which is part of the whole Indiana Jones thing of like, why are we doing this in the first place kind of thing, where everyone's celebrating outside. I will say, my local subway station's getting a little shout out in this movie was fun.
Oh yeah.
A horse from 59th to 51st.
Yep.
Jumping between trains and then landing. That was cool. My first question was, are we going to see a horse on the subway? I want to see that. People are going to get kicked. It's going to be real nasty. That's not what happened. Instead, we saw a horse on the subway tracks. Fantastic. That to me was one of the best action sequences I've seen in recent years.
It was pretty good.
Was a moment of old school Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But was that No, that wasn't flashback. That was him at current age.
That was current. That was current. That was current age. Yeah.
And it was like he was running for his life, which he
Mm-hmm.
was. They needed more of that attitude, because I think part of the problem is he's sitting around a lot. Maybe Harrison Ford goes, "You're not going to have me on a horseback the whole time. I'm not going to be running full speed. I'm going to be sitting on a plane. I'm going to be sitting in handcuffs in a car." But when he's reacting to the events, like at that point, he's trying to not be captured, right?
Yeah.
Or killed, but I think captured in that one. That was cool to see his spirit animated. And it's not adventure. It's not he's going to seek adventure. He's running away from someone. He actually doesn't want to get pulled in the adventure so bad.
Right.
He goes to crazy lengths to get away from the bad guys, including chasing a train on a horse and then jumping the track. It was so cool.
Yeah.
But then he's like, okay, I did my part. Everyone got their little thrill. Now I'm going to sit for the rest of the movie and get dragged around. At some point, I actually watched him kind of like half run, trying to catch someone around a corner, and it didn't look like running. Like they should have de-aged that a little more. It honestly made me sad, which sure, the actor's old. I don't even know that if he's doing this for love of the game or money or whatever, great. I'm not trying to take work away from him. Nobody should be forcing it, be like, Harrison Ford, you got to do Indiana Jones. Like, guys did his time. But it did make me feel a little sad watching it. Like, damn, Indiana Jones, he lost a lot of speed off of his step. Even just like he's been sitting for a long time. He's going to go into a run and it's real clunky.
Yeah.
Anyway, the horse scene early on, I enjoyed the Moon Day parade, and there's all this excitement going on, but it's also kind of absurd, and that's what part of what the movie is getting at, is that underlying tone of why are we even doing this? What's it for? Especially if someone's about to turn back time and change the outcome of the future.
Right.
It makes it a hard sell when you're in an audience now, and we know how it's going to end. It's not happening, but we're all like, well, we bought a ticket, so can you give us a reason why things are like why we should be doing things, not just I'm gonna. And it gave me the feeling during it of like, I got to sit through the movie. It was not short. If this had been like a 90-minute, 100-minute, like a pound for pound action-packed adventure, I would have been more into it. There was moments where I was like, got a lot of movie here. And I felt like I was sitting through it. Now it makes sense why I was feeling that way, because that's how the main character was feeling. Our hero was like, I'm going to keep sitting here. Along for the ride, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely felt long in moments and all that. But yeah, let's continue with like some of the other acting performances as well. So we talked about Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Again, for what she was tasked to do, I thought it was such a great job, especially since we haven't seen her do action before. And she really dove into it. She really was all in. And I thought she did a great job with that. But at the same time, like I said, for me personally, it made me also not like the character, because one, she was doing everything I wanted Indy to do, right? But at the same time, her motivation was the opposite. Like, she was more of a capitalist than Indy is. You know, Indy is all about the preservation of history and the respect of history. She was doing most of it for the money and the gains of it all. So it kind of makes her character a little bit less likable. She has a redeeming moment at the end where she like really shows her love for Indiana Jones and is trying to save him and protect him, and kind of, I guess, in a way, protect the legacy that is Indiana Jones, because we needed that in the time that we're in and all that. So I kind of like that arc of hers towards the end there. The kid, I didn't like the kid at all. I thought the kid was a little bit annoying.
Really?
Yeah.
There's some moments, but overall, I thought it was good.
Look, we got Short Round in Temple of Doom. That's like the perfect kid companion in all of the Indiana Jones movie. We got this kid who for some reason knows a lot of stuff, but we don't know why he knows a lot of stuff. Like, how did he know how to fly a plane or semi-fly a plane or figure it out on the fly, so to speak?
No.
Yeah.
We saw him when we met the kid. He was studying to be a pilot. Like he was
Right. No, I
practicing.
get that. He's like the
instruments, and he
flaps
was like,
and all that.
he
Yeah.
knew all the moves to do.
Sure.
And he was like, I haven't flown one before, which they
Right.
point out.
Right.
That didn't seem that far-fetched to me. The young upstart kid who wants to, get out of his situation and like improve his lot in life and is obsessed with the idea of flying as an escape or whatever. I thought the character worked for me. I also, part of that helped is that I really had a great time in Morocco last year, and being back in Morocco was really nice.
Right.
And I felt like some sympathy for the kid in a way of like, oh, he's cool. This is a kid that I would like, respect the hell out of his little Dickensian adventure. So that helped.
Yes. No, I get that. I totally get that.
Nicholson, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which the quick aside on Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her career is so bizarre.
It really is.
One of the greatest TV shows of all time. Transcendent as hell. And also, you said no action. I'm going to say Killing Eve, but that's not a movie, right? Maybe that's what you're talking about. And then she's done. Is it called Killing Eve? Maybe I messed that up.
No, I think it. I think it is. Yeah.
But I didn't see it, so I don't know how much action's really there. If it's more like the background detective spy work. But other than that, she was in a big action adventure movie, which we're going to play this trivia game now, I guess, because you should know this one. Harrison Ford was in the original.
Is she a voice of a character? Because that doesn't count.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. How dare you say that Solo, a Star Wars story, isn't an
Yeah, she is a voice of a freaking android. Yeah.
Don't say she wasn't in an action movie, my friend.
Please.
But yeah, weird career for her. And if she's doing
weird
cash grab, sure, do your thing, make that money right now, and then at some point get back to your art.
Yeah.
But also, if this is like somebody did like a little, it was a fun little article, like a layout of like the bizarre choices she's made since Fleabag. And I'm really curious what the future holds for her. That said, I really liked her in this movie. In fact, 3 different times there was basically empty theater, and I took a picture because I was sending someone like outfit ideas. Like it was a really cool costume throughout the movie. Like it felt very like old school, like a Katharine Hepburn adventure madcap kind of movie role. I liked her a lot in this. I'll say that. I don't necessarily want her to not be doing Fleabag. I kind of wish she kept, but also you can't just do that forever. So
no,
it's a tough spot, I guess, after you make such a legendary product and become famous.
I mean, you got to hand it to her because she's opening herself up to explore a lot of these like new things that she hasn't done. I heard that she's attached now to possibly doing a Tomb Raider like series for Amazon. Yeah. So
that was what the article was actually based on, was how it like.
Right.
What is she doing? This is fascinating.
Yeah. So it'll be really
actually. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see like how that will play out and like how far invested she's going to be in something like that. I don't discredit for what she did in this movie. I thought she was good. She definitely wasn't like a bad thing of the movie that made me hate the movie. The only thing that also didn't work for me is that, obviously she's British, so that dry British humor that she has a lot of. I never watched Fleabag, so I'm not, used to that stuff. And the dry British humor is very hit or miss with me. So for me, it didn't feel like it fit in the movie, where she's like little quick one-liners or quick whips and all that. And I was just like, okay, this doesn't feel like Indiana Jones right now at this point. But again, I don't discredit for what she did. She did a really good job. I don't want to see her continue on as the new Indiana Jones, in my opinion. I don't want to see that.
She could do better things with her time, and I'm not saying it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
That would be bizarre. That'd be weird. The fact that she's done so many different action IP, where it's Solo, Star Wars story voice as the girlfriend droid of Lando,
right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then this movie, and then also writing for James Bond, Fascinating choices
Right.
there.
That's right.
And then now Lara Croft Tomb Raider, just action IP stuff. And if she said that's where the money is, I'm going to spend 5 years, reset the palette, all expectations out the window. No one is asking what's your next TV show going to be, and then get her $100 million and then do whatever she wants for the rest of her life. I respect that. I'm never trying to begrudge artists from getting their shmoney while they can.
Yeah, and maybe she's taking notes from like other people she saw, where it's like, attach yourself to some of these high budget blockbuster type movies, make your money, and then that will help fund what you want to do, like your indie stuff and all that stuff. So, I think that's like a perfect way to go. And if you could do it, do it. Yeah. It was nice to see Puss in Boots part of this movie too.
Oh yeah,
right.
Was that a cameo? I don't think he was advertised in it, but
no, he was advertised. I
didn't see that anywhere. Okay.
Yeah. So it was nice to see his little role there. I thought that was really cute. Again, another character that Indy has known for a long time that we were just introduced for the first time. So I thought that was nice. I want to quickly talk about Boyd Holbrook, because his career is also kind of an interesting one too, where he's worked with Mangold in the past. So I feel like this was another like, hey, I like working with you. I need someone who is just overly violent and wants to shoot everybody, because that's basically what his character was. He just wanted to shoot and kill everybody. And that was another thing I noticed about the movie too. It's like everyone that Indy knew died in this movie. It's like everyone in front of him died. Like the people that he worked with at the school got shot and killed, right? And then like everyone else that he went on an adventure with either died or something happened. It's like very violent for an Indiana Jones movie.
For sure.
But Boyd was okay. He's like one of those faces that you recognize if you watch enough movies and all that. But I don't know. I feel like I kind of want to see more from this guy instead of doing these type of roles. I don't know. Is it just me?
It was the same in Narcos, which is where he blew up for me. I don't know how much he is capable of. I'm not trying to say he isn't, but I would love to see him have a script that isn't bang, bang, I gotcha.
Yeah.
You better watch out. Watch your six. Look around the corner. No, my wife is leaving me because I spend too much time with my gun and my badge, or whatever his dialogue is. This project. I would like to see him. I'm wondering if he could hold like a play or a romantic lead in a movie or something. Because you could see he's got the looks and he's got like the charisma and the personality and charm for sure. I'm wondering if he has the chops. I don't think that's been proven yet. But
yeah, he could just be one of those guys that is just a good character actor, and then maybe he's just stuck like that, kind of like henchman number one, or he'll always be like the bad guy, the right hand to the bad guy, and all that. Because in Logan he was also kind of the main villain, so to speak, in that movie, but it didn't feel anything different from what we got him in here. It's just this one was more quick to shoot, ask questions never kind of guy. So it was just really interesting to see it overall. But yeah, I guess last thing we could talk about is some of the special effects and all that, because again, I think the charm of the original Indiana Jones movies were always like the practical usage of effects and building of sets and locations and all that. I definitely did feel like they took a better care of that here than they did with Crystal Skull. Where it did feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more realistic, so to speak. Of course, certain scenarios are, you can't be so much so, like your train fighting, and while you're on top of the train. I did like that horse scene, the chase scene. I thought was done really, really well.
Maybe the best action set piece of the whole film.
Yeah,
not even close.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree. But better than, I would even say, the car chase scene in Morocco. Like I thought that whole thing was a lot better, handled better. But again, this could just be a me thing. But I didn't appreciate the fact that I felt like we got a lot of action scenes for the sake of action. Like, I feel like in the original Indiana Jones movies, we definitely had our share of action moments, but they all were timed and served purposely based off of something that Indy had to do, or it was a consequence of something Indy did that now he finds himself in a situation that he has to get out of. I felt like a lot of these were kind of forced in a way. And the best way I could kind of explain it is like the Jurassic World movies that we get, where we had a lot of these action moments, but for what reason? Just for sake of action, I feel like at this point. And maybe that could be another like detriment to making a movie like this today, where maybe there's a need to do that all the time. I don't know.
Audiences are desensitized. If you don't have my heart racing at this pace, then
right.
I'm not going to recommend the movie to my friends. It might be some very basic version of that. When I'm thinking about it, I'm like trying to figure out like the chase scene, for example. If I recall, it happens because they kidnap the kid. Is that right? Or is that how they?
Yes. Well, okay, so they're in Italy,
right?
And that's where the kid gets kidnapped. So that's one scene. That's one action scene. The Morocco car chase was because Mads got the dial thingy, and they're trying to chase him down for that, and then it becomes this weird like. I'm trying to chase Mads, but I'm also trying to chase Phoebe because she wants it for a different reason than I want it, kind of thing like that. Like okay,
it's kind of whack.
Yeah.
I guess the only other action set piece I'll shout out is in the beginning when he's on the train and it's young Harrison Ford, theoretically AI Ford. That was cool. Watching anybody fight Nazis on a train is just great. I'm always going to enjoy it unless the Nazis win. Then I have to reconsider.
Sure.
But that was a fun scene. And then there's a chase scene there. He steals a bike and there's someone in the sidecar and a Nazi, or they jump on the sidecar and he hits a tree with it.
Right.
But it's still going. There was a couple. They had some good innovative action scenes, but they were all chase scenes in this one.
Yeah.
That were that heart pumping stuff. I think it's the reality of movies nowadays.
Yeah.
If it's slow enough, people aren't going to take it seriously as an entertainment.
Yeah. And I feel like that's unfortunate too, because it's like I love the action beats that take place because they're busy trying to solve a puzzle. Like in a tomb or in a cave or in a castle or whatever the case is.
But even then, there was always something that felt extra, which the old ones had it too. It was like, oh, there's snakes now or spiders.
Yeah.
This one had a lot of that and a lot of very, like, in the old ones, you'd have like a lot of snakes, sure. But this one was like so many eels, such convincing technology, or I forgot what the bugs are called, but like giant creepy crawlers in the cave. It was as if there always had to be something that got the audience, freaked out and on the edge of their seats. It didn't feel earned in a few of those.
No, and I do feel like some of those moments were also nods to the original movies. Like the bug stuff. Like we saw that in Temple of Doom. So I felt like that was kind of like, oh, nice little callback to something like that. And there was a decent amount of callbacks to the original films. Like again at the end when Marion comes back. And she does the whole thing that Harrison did to her while they were on the boat.
He says, "Are you okay?" He says, "Everything hurts." And she was saying, "Me too." And he goes, "Well, where doesn't it hurt?"
Right. And then she does the whole elbow thing, and which is very cute and very sweet. And then again, you got two people who are at that age of retirement and all that, and just kind of wanting to be together and everything. So very, very sweet. I will say that for sure. But yeah, I mean, that's Dial of Destiny right there, pretty much in a nutshell. So I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to share about your thoughts on the movie or anything.
My question after this movie, because I think Indiana Jones lost some of its substance or magnitude after the last two.
Yeah.
How does this age with Blade Runner, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones? I'm not asking you to necessarily rank them. I think we could and I'm guessing ours are the same. But is this the lowest? Is this your least? I mean, I'm not going to ask favorite or favorite character or favorite franchise, but like which. I mean, the one that's what's the most influential is obviously Star Wars, right? Unless you
Yeah.
want to go like a deep cut and say like Blade Runner, technically, and it's weird, but what's the best one? You know what I mean? I'm asking you to include your bias on it, though.
As far as like franchise or
franchise that Harrison
okay,
Ford is a central character of all of them. Not necessarily who's your favorite character or what's Harrison Ford best at, but
right?
these franchises have all aged differently,
Yeah.
right? But all of them have had Harrison Ford as an older man in the
Mm-hmm.
in a later installment of the franchise.
Right.
Is Indiana Jones the worst of them?
If we are to judge it based off of the stuff that we've got recently,
I'm saying include that in it,
right?
With the taste in your like the meal and the aftertaste. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I hate to say this, but I think it's second to worst. Indiana Jones is.
No, I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate because I
You
know
know
what you're putting at
why?
the bottom of your list. Wait,
Which one am I putting at the bottom of
wait,
my
actually,
list?
what are you putting on the bottom of your list? Because you might have a really hot take.
Well, you tell me. What do you think I'm putting at the bottom of my list?
Blade Runner.
No.
Was what I assumed, but then I wrapped my
No.
mind around. You might be saying Star Wars.
Yeah. If I were to judge it based off the most recent iterations that we got,
including TV shows, let's say,
including TV shows,
the whole thing,
yeah. But it's also not safe to say.
Let's only do the Harrison Ford ones, okay? So the movies, right?
If because again, he has to be a part of it, but also he's not like a main part of the Star Wars. He's like a tertiary character in the Star Wars, the original.
1/3 of them, which maybe someone's seen it.
No, it's true.
His character only shows up in one of them, or more.
In the new movies, in the new movies, he shows up twice. So he shows up in one. Obviously, he dies, and then he shows up as a ghost or kind of vision in.
I don't care about.
Yeah.
So he's really only in one of the new ones. So if you were to,
right,
I guess I don't want to get too nuanced with it, but Force Awakens was really good. So that doesn't drop the bottom of the list if you stop it there at Harrison Ford's. Like, he is a central character in the movie, right?
Yeah.
He almost makes a great choice because I think it was kind of his doing, saying, I'll come back for one more, but you got to get me out of it.
Well, he's always wanted, he always wanted the character to die. You know, he wanted the character to die in the original trilogy, like in the original movies. But they kept it going because...
It says something about Harrison Ford, I think is kind of what I'm getting at here. Indiana Jones, you can't have the character Indiana Jones die. I get it. But there's something to be said about the person who's willing to take a back seat or say, you know what, this is actually better and pure if I quit while we're on top, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I respect that. Whereas you can run a franchise into the ground. We've seen that with so many franchises, and maybe it's revivable later.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what I'm trying to get at is, I think Indiana Jones is at the bottom of the list if you end Star Wars after Force Awakens in the equation, and Blade Runner, there's only been 2. So that's an easier... You have Blade Runner number 1? If we do it that way?
Yeah, if we do it this way. Yeah, because...
I think I'm with you. That was going to be my hot take, was that Blade Runner is the best of these three.
No, I agree, because both movies are very well done, you know, and both movies treated his character extremely well. Especially like in 2049, he's older, but they explain it and they, you know, kind of extrapolated more from it. So it's believable and understandable.
Has a lesser role.
Right.
Kind of similar to the Star Wars thing where he's like, you know what? I don't have to be the star.
I'm just here. Yeah. Right.
It might be better served if I'm not.
Yeah.
And I wish, I guess, and you can't do that with Indiana Jones. You can't kill him off, right? You can't have him as like the 5th biggest character in the movie. But you can't keep doing this. I don't know that you get another, like, it's going to be another flop 15 years after the last one. And they got a good director this time.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works, man.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't work for me.
The last question is this the last Indiana Jones thing? Are we done after this?
I think for now, I think writing's on the wall that they can't do another Indiana Jones with this type of mentality, and having him come back, they can't.
You have to be in like a Sean Connery role. And I don't even
Right.
mean the main character. It'd be like, or smaller even. He's a consultant. He's Rocky in Creed kind of
Right,
thing,
right,
right? Like
right. Yeah.
there's 100% a lead actor that's name is not Indiana Jones,
Mhm.
or he says, his grandkid something. He gets that person's allowed to call themselves Indiana Jones. I could be wrong, but going back in my memory, I thought that was kind of the plan with Shia, was to like see if they could transition it over, and it just didn't work, so they didn't even get there. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That
But it
was
seemed like that was in the cards, or at least an option
yeah.
afterwards.
That was loosely in the plans. That's why at the end of that movie they did a little kind of like tease where he tried to put the hat on, and then Harrison's like, "Nope, that's mine." So that was like a whole little like, oh, this could be it, but he's not ready for that yet. But they ditched that a while ago, and they kind of changed their mind and all that. I think if they were going to do another Indiana Jones movie, series, whatever the case is, the only thing that will work at this point is if they just stayed in the past. Kind of like retell some of his adventures that he experienced and all that. Get a different actor, to play it and all that. And then if you want to have him sitting in a cottage somewhere, telling the stories to somebody by the campfire, and then kind of like flash back to that big adventure, or whatever the case is, then I think that's the only way it could work at this point.
I don't hate that. He's explaining something, but someone, and then obviously you have to get Alden Ehrenreich to play young Harrison Ford, because that went so well last time. No
Right,
at
right,
all.
right. Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, I mean, but I think if they do decide to do something, it's going to be a long while until we see it, because I think this whatever happens with this new movie is going to tell Disney and Lucasfilm something, and it's probably going to tell them that people are no longer interested in this type of Indiana Jones story. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
We'll see how long Harrison Ford is around too, because this movie had a plane crash, and that man has been through.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully we make it there. I'm honestly happier if it ends here.
Yeah.
I think I would rather do that rather than another failed attempt, of course. But
yeah,
if it's a risk, and the studio's set, and of course they're going to do it if it's going to make them money,
Mhm.
but it doesn't feel like a winning bet to do another one. And you ended it, at least you can say, all right, we didn't do too many of them.
Yeah.
And he ended pretty happy, back to where he wanted to be before. So
yeah,
that's worth something.
And then here's my hot take, and I'm curious to hear what you're going to say, because you just saw this recently.
He's hotter now than when he was a young man?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. Like him and Helen Mirren, when they did that Yellowstone series together, whoo! Talk about freaking porn, man. That is like the best shit I've seen.
Any other hot takes while you're at it?
Yeah, I think Crystal Skull is better than this movie.
So Crystal Skull got a bad rap in real time.
Yeah.
When I rewatched it, I was like, this isn't as bad as people said it was. People were disappointed.
Yeah.
Sure, that's different than it being actually really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh, the Rotten Tomatoes score is a 4. Let's even get down to a 3, or whatever the hell happens whenever people are disappointed by a big new franchise movie. It wasn't that bad.
Rewatching it in later years after that time, because obviously I was disappointed when I saw it, or confused, right?
Of course.
Watching it now, I understand what they were trying to accomplish in the movie. And I actually appreciate it a lot more so now. If anything, it still keeps the charm and characters of the other Indiana Jones movies more so than I feel this one did. So that's why, as of right now, in 5 years, 10 years from now, when I rewatch Dial of Destiny, we'll see how I feel about it. But right now, I think Crystal Skull is a much better movie than this one.
This might, if we're looking at this as a real final chapter, and if they'd said that and we knew that, I might actually be happier with it. We're like, okay, he got out, he got one more adventure. Yeah. Your dog is near the end of his life, and you get a really beautiful day in the park with it, and he gets to do his damn thing, even though he's not really about it. Mm-hmm. This movie might make more sense if later we know, oh, that was the real last ride. It's got a more beautiful ending then, rather than being like, I hope I don't have to see this guy again because it makes me sad. If instead it's like, oh, this is a good last chapter of a book, almost like a prologue. This would be a decent, if there's 30 chapters of the Indiana Jones book, and then this is he got one more ride, and he got to have a happy ending. I wouldn't be too mad about that. But I think I heard you say that Crystal Skull is your favorite Indiana Jones movie, right? That's your hot take?
Of all time. Of all time.
It's your favorite movie.
Of all time.
Star Wars.
Oh my God. Yeah. It took over my top list. Yeah.
You got to rewatch it. On the 15th rewatch, Crystal Skull really good.
That's it. Like my entire top 4 Letterboxd, I'm changing. I'm switching them out. You're gonna see Crystal Skull take over. It's gonna be Lost in Translation. No, it's gonna be Crystal Skull, Lost in Translation.
Ridiculous.
To close things out, what did you rate this on Letterboxd, since we're talking about it?
3.5.
Okay.
It was close to 4, but it was too long for that and too many dull moments. And same with Crystal Skull, 3.5.
Okay. I gave it a 3, but I did say that if it wasn't an Indiana Jones movie, it would have been a 2. That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
That's a good way to look at these two. Let's just pretend it wasn't Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
No nostalgia at all.
No.
They just released this Bucky Thomas's Adventures.
Yeah. Billy Joe's. Yeah.
I'm not watching it at all.
No. Yeah. If this was like a
0, because I would not have seen it.
If this was like a Liam Neeson, Gerald Butler type of movie, I'll just be like, no thanks. I'm not going to.
Franchises. He's like, are you actually good, or are you really just doing it? Like, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Closer to you gave it a 3. Is closer to a 2 or closer to a 4?
Definitely closer to a 2.
You don't do halves.
Nope.
So 2.5 is your rating. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have, so I'm not saying it is, but it would be a 2.5 if you
look. I think you just need to get over it. I'm not going to do halves. That's it. That's the bottom line. I'm doing solid numbers only.
I know. It's not a 2.5, but it would be if you did halves. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
10 to 5 is what I'm guessing. Okay, got it. Sure. Not a half.
No, not a half. No, it's all solid, baby. Solid foods, y'all. But again, as always with every episode and everything we talk about, we're so curious about what you think out there. So let us know your thoughts and comments of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. If this is something you've seen already or have not, just let us know what you feel about it. If you want to see it, or if you've seen it, are you happy you did so? What are your favorite Indiana Jones movies? Or what are your favorite Harrison Ford-led franchise movies? Let us know all about that stuff in the comments below. Love to have conversations with all of you. But with that being said, this has been this week's episode of Movie Time. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us with our indie talk. Before we head out, Blake, where can people find you online?
Go to Letterboxd, where my username is lastnamewolf, where I gave Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny 3 out of 5 stars. Nice. 3.5. Sorry, I do halves. I forgot.
3.5. Yes, he does do the halves, as opposed to me, who is all about the solid foods, baby. But yes, you could find me also on Letterboxd, the Low Key Geek, and of course, same thing on Twitter, Instagram, most importantly, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. If you haven't done so yet, show your support, follow, subscribe, like this video, or like this audio version of the video. If you want full unedited video versions of this episode and other episodes, we will be opening up a membership tier on YouTube for you to kind of show your support that way too. As a little nice treat, you'll get unedited versions of these episodes available for you to view and watch whenever you feel. So I'll let everyone know when that is available, so that you could start showing your support that way. Another great way to show your support is by checking out any of our affiliates that we have in the description of this episode. You may find something awesome for yourself or for a loved one. By participating, you'll be helping support this channel at no additional cost to you. But if any of those options do not work for you, let us know what you're interested in, and then maybe I could find a way to talk into some of those partnerships and provide better products for all of you to indulge in and show your support that way as well. So all that out of the way. Again, I've been Renee. This has been Blake. This has been Movie Time. Stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. We will catch you all in the next one. All right. Peace out, y'all. Bye-bye. As we ride off into the sunset. Dun, dun, dun.